All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start today, I just want to reiterate on behalf of the Now Spoke team that we do stand with our Black community. The deck that we just showed right here, we will send out with the resources that we shared. And so, right now there is a lot of things that are happening, but we want to stand together to just highlight these resources and bring this to life. And so as we kick this off, we're super excited to have Alexis Harmon here as our speaker for Now Spoke. She is a good friend of mine, but also an awesome counterpart that does marketing communications at Microsoft. She is a graduate of Hampton University, and she'll be talking about, how to learn and live throughout the mess, especially post-grad. So we're excited to, talk and highlight her today. And Alexis, I'll hand it over to you to take it away.
Yeah, totally. So, hi guys, a bit of background about me. Like Leah said, I graduated from the Hampton University last May. And it was one of the most bittersweet experiences that I have felt to date. If you notice my background, for those bean lovers who are watching, yeah, this is how I feel almost every day, especially with the coffee. But I say that graduating was bittersweet because I do not think that college was the best 4 years of my life. But I do think it was some of the top 20, but the year after, which is currently the year I'm in, has been the biggest roller coaster. And I feel like it's bittersweet because you leave something so consistent to something like this that is, like I said, it's a mess. So that's about me. And Leah, quick question. Okay, I think I'm supposed to present now, right?
Yes, yep, you can share your screen. So
Awesome.
You'll see a share screen button at the bottom corner. And also, as you get that situated, folks, if you feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of the chat here. So Q&A is where you can actually submit questions, and the chat is where you can just put some commentary.
So it's not letting me share my screen, so I will continue talking.
All right, try now.
For me to work at a tech company, I probably might be the most technological challenged Generation Z person I know. Literally, Excels make me cringe. So this is my deck. The reason I like to use this meme is because that's how I feel, I would say 80% of the time. I like how the dog is just calmly sitting there because that's all you can do after a certain point. Like, the house is on fire. What can you do? Like, life is a mess. You have went from 12 plus years, because you're 4 years in school, of a routine, a rinse and repeat routine. Even if you add a little differences here and there, you might intern, you might work, it is still school altogether. And so I equate post-grad life, at least the first year, to this meme, because I'm constantly having to tell myself this is fine when it's really not. So learning how to live in the mess post-grad life is really what we're going to talk about. I'm going to be very transparent with you all. Like, if I get emotional or I start saying crazy things, this is quite literally my personality. But I don't like to sugarcoat or put on this facade, because we're all grown people. You don't need that. You need somebody giving it to you real, like straight like that. So with that, let's get into it. So background about me is I was born in 1997. My birthday is actually tomorrow. And I always tell my mom, I never asked to be born. That was never something that I requested. And then in 2008 in middle school, probably the worst time ever, I realized that I was bisexual, and that added an extra burden onto my life. I would say I graduated with honors last May. I had a full-time offer at a Fortune 50 company. I had hit my peak. I had finally gotten it together. You see, the first part of the timeline is just a hot mess. It just really is. I didn't want to be here. I didn't ask for this. Like, this is a planet that is just polluting the earth left and right. I'm Black, obviously, so the first 5 minutes talking about, having that moment of silence to address the atrocities that are happening to people of color, specifically Black people. I'm Black, I'm a woman, and then I'm queer. Like, this is just a mess waiting to happen, and then pausing and happening again, just like a mess. And finally, I think I have it all together, and I am tooting my own horn. Like, what, girl? You got a job at a Fortune 50 company. You graduated with honors. You're a part of all the clubs. You're the president of this and that. You have it all together. Like, I'm not prepared for the humbling that's about to come. So like I said, I graduated, and then this is where I'm at right now. I realized that almost nothing is going to go as planned, and I needed to get it together because it was really beating me down. I would say from 1997 to 2019, I was in the middle of mess, trying to figure it out, but I was also making sure that I was hitting every benchmark that I possibly could. And now, I was a very high performer, I will say that, and I think that that is worth noting, because you can be a high performer and still have chaos all around you. Being good at things does not mean that everything is okay. And that's something that I had to learn this year, because I thought once I got the job, and once I got the money, and once I got the sorry, that was my mom. Once I got everything in order, I thought I was gonna be fine. I've check marked everything off the box. This should be fine. And it just wasn't. So, background about me, I've always been a mess. There was a period about 6 months where I thought I wasn't a mess, and I thought that I was the best thing since sliced bread, and I had been humbled. So, stages of the mess. We're going to just break it down. It's kind of just 4 simple parts. The first year post-grad life, much like a mess, goes through several stages. It's very self-explanatory. So, I'll give you all a second to kind of read the slide, because this is the first part. I would say this is probably May to August, and it kind of varies. It depends on when you start your full-time offer, when you start applying to jobs, when you start grad school, whenever you have officially, moved out of that summer phase. I would say that is what this time period is. And it's kind of like trying to find the best words for it, because it's almost like a haze. Like, it's just like a haze of like pink and roses and glasses. You think this is going to be awesome, and so it's really like, congratulations, like, you have graduated, but you're leaving your safety net, and you don't know what's going to happen. And it's going to bring a whirlwind of changes that no one can prepare you for, in all honesty. Like, you have to feel them to truly understand them. And so, what do you do during this phase? I'm going to be honest. Enjoy yourself. It's kind of like if you've already overslept 20 minutes and it's a 50-minute class, don't get up and go to class. Just continue sleeping. There's no point. If it's going to take you another 20 minutes to get to the class, just continue sleeping. So this period of the mess, enjoy yourself, because don't spend this period, going over XYZ, trying to like brace yourself for what's coming next, because you can be the most prepared person and that will not change anything, because it is such a significant change in your life. The only thing you can do is enjoy that bit of peace that you're going to be having in those few little months before the waves just come crashing down. Yeah, I feel like that is really important, and I can't stress it enough. And I'm trying to find the right words to say that are kind of consoling, because it can seem kind of like a downer to be told, like, oh, there's nothing I can do that can stop it. There's nothing you can do that can stop it. Even if you're set up with the best career, or you're set up with the best grad school, you're set up with everything, change is inevitable, and change is going to hurt at times. So just enjoy yourself. if I could go back, I would have done a lot of things differently. I would have traveled a little bit more. I would have been with some friends and family a little bit more, but I was so fixated on preparing myself for the big move to Washington that I left a lot of time that I can't get back behind. And with that, I'm going to get into the mess is ignored. So, yeah. Background, I have always known that I probably should take my mental health way more seriously. But I haven't. I'm going to be transparent. I have not. I definitely dealt with high anxiety throughout college, and I trace it back probably through high school and middle school, and high functioning depression, but actually it's called dysthymia. And it took me coming out to Washington for that to get addressed because the mess was ignored. I was ignoring it. I had everything going for me. I was working at a high level company. Oh, trying to read the questions too. How do I live in the mess post grad when it's challenging at this time to find jobs? Perfect question. And I'm sorry to stop in the middle of my presentation, but I really want to address this because I have a lot of sorority sisters and friends who just graduated, and they're graduating into one of the worst economies. Give yourself the biggest amount of grace that you can give yourself, because we truly are bullies to ourselves, if we're being quite honest. And we really do beat ourselves up. And we start to fixate on what we're beating ourselves up about. So it becomes, okay, I don't have a job. So then you start fixating on, well, how do I fix that? Okay, well, I need to apply to 20 applications a day. And then you start getting, 15 rejections, the next day. And so now you're in a cycle of, okay, well, I need to do 30. Okay, I need to do 40. You're not giving yourself the grace to acknowledge that you are living in historic times. They're horrible historic times, don't get me wrong, but they're still historic times. And you're not giving yourself that needed grace. You're already going to be in some mess. Please don't add more mess to your plate. And so I'll go back to the mess is ignored. I was not seeking therapy. I was not really talking to my friends about it, because what do I look like? What do I look like? This is what I thought. And please don't think like me, because it is detrimental to your actual mental health. I was thinking, what do I look like talking to my friends who A, have a job at a company not my size, so they may not be making as much as me, B, don't have a job, or C, are in grad school, so they're in college part 2 in their eyes. What do I look like? What I did not think was venting, I said was complaining. What do I look like complaining to them? Don't compare your current standing with anybody else's, because what might be too heavy for you might be light on somebody else, and what might be light on them might be too heavy for you. And so, like I said in this line, even with the knowledge of the big pool you're entering, most of us hold ourselves to those past high standards. I was consistently I was the president of this, I was in this organization, I got this GPA, I did this internship, this, because I was sucking. I still suck at my job. Let me be quite frank. I still suck at my job. I really do. And that's because I'm learning and I'm growing. And so when you don't acknowledge that shift, you then start to ignore what's building up behind it. I was really focused on the fact that I wasn't doing as well as I wanted to at work. I wasn't performing as good as I wanted to. And I wasn't addressing the fact that I had moved away from my entire family. I wasn't addressing the fact that I was struggling to date in Washington, which kind of was a shot to my ego. I wasn't addressing a lot of stuff, and I was still holding myself to these high standards. And before I knew it, I was sinking. in what I had set myself up for. I told myself I wanted to make this impact in 6 months on the job. I wanted to have this much in my bank account. I wanted to have this. I'm ignoring the fact that everything around me is changing, but I'm still using measurements from the past. That makes no sense. And so what I think that you can do during this time when, stuff is just like, it's just weighing on you, is don't ignore it. Start taking notes of when things are going wrong. But I also want you to understand that this is not a time to bully yourself and a time to belittle yourself. So I would try to track, okay, when was I getting very sad? What times? What was causing it? Okay, what mistakes did I make here and there? But I also was not allowing myself to fixate on that. And when I did catch myself fixating on it, like saying, oh, I made that mistake in the email. Okay, well, how do you fix that? When I realized that the questions were going past, how do you fix that? And why are you so dumb? Wow, everybody saw that email. They're probably talking about you. I wonder who forwarded that email. That's no longer taking notes. That's literally just beating yourself up. And I had to realize, so I have options. I can figure out a new way to take notes, or I can take a pause from taking notes. And this is when it comes that you need to really know yourself, because I knew that at that time, and still there are times now, where I am not necessarily good at modifying how I take notes on myself. So I need to take a break from taking notes. And that's what I mean by this is not to keep tabs of everything you suck at. It's literally just meant to see patterns so that you can modify and work on those things. So for instance, I would type the notes very quickly in my phone. If I made an email and I had some errors, okay, made an email error, but this is how you can constructively do better, da 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 da. Like I said, when I would get very, very depressed in my apartment, okay, it is 9:38. You were watching this, you got sad randomly. Okay, so I was able to notice a pattern that I really didn't like being alone in my apartment. Especially, I would say I was fine when it was light outside, but when it would get dark, especially after a long day of work, I needed to call somebody. In the beginning, I was not calling people. Like I said, I felt I had no right to talk to anybody about my issues. How dare I complain? And I am one of the main people benefiting from this. And don't do that to yourself. Oh, didn't mean to click that over, but the mess is cleaned. This is a very, very weird part, because it's cleaned, but you also at times are beating yourself up again. The mess is clean. At some point, you're going to get really sad and the most. Like, I'm not going to read it to y'all because y'all are grown. Y'all can clearly read it. But this stage is very important, because the line at the bottom that says things to do during this time, if you don't have it, sorry, I'm trying to like gather myself and like not get emotional. Because it literally took, I got into therapy and I would go twice a month. And for those of you who are looking like, how do I find therapy? How do I do this and that? I would definitely recommend Binging it or Googling it. For me specifically, as a woman of color, Black girl therapy. And there's a lot of resources that pop up. I would also take if you have insurance, Google your insurance's name and therapist in network. And then also taking the step that you might have to take other steps. I actually went to a psychiatrist, because a psychiatrist is somebody who can actually diagnose you. And that's when I figured out, I had dysthymia. And, being an African American woman who's queer, I knew that had a lot of burdens on my back, but I didn't think that it was affecting me the way that it was. And I wasn't addressing the fact that my anxiety had gotten significantly worse within this year after graduating from college. And so I had to start cleaning the mess up because it was legitimately harming me mentally. Like, I can't be there for my friends and family because like I need time alone. And in that time alone, I'm not doing anything productive. I'm just getting like more sad, more depressed. And so, like I said, in this point, at some point you're going to get really sad, and in some or most cases you might cry. I cried. I cried on the phone to one of my close guy friends who lives in New York. I was just overwhelmed. I think I had a horrible day at work. I don't know. I think I probably called myself dumb like 10 times. And I just had to call him because I was just in my car just thinking like, you have made it to this point. You are this quote unquote successful. And what do you have to show for it, Alexis? You're not doing that well at work. And what I didn't know was that people were like, I mean, you're doing pretty cool for an undergraduate. But what I thought was, I'm not doing that well at work. No one wants to date me. I'm watching my friends at work excel beyond measure. And you're not budgeting your money right, which is not the truth. I was saving pretty well, but you know, when you're beating yourself up, that's not the thing that you think about. You think of all the negative. And so there's gonna come a point where you break. It happens to everybody. It really does. And that's when you decide that you need to make a change because you know that this is not sustainable. And for me, I had a conversation with myself and was like, Alexis, this is not a sustainable lifestyle to live. It's just not, because every 3 months I was breaking down. And that had been something I did in college. And I just was like, oh, it's just college. Oh, it's just this. But now I'm on my own. I'm living by myself. It's not like I always had a roommate in college. I lived in the dorms. I was in a sorority, so I had a bunch of sorority sisters to check in on me. You know, just I had a safety net essentially. And if I ever was truly going over the edge, which was about honestly every 2 to 3 months, which is really bad to say that it took me this long to realize I need to clean the mess up. But somebody would just swoop me up. You know, there was places I could go because I realized I really need to be around people sometimes in those moments. And even if it's just to be in like a back room of the bedroom, just knowing that there's somebody out there that can check on me. And yeah, I knew I needed to make a change because I'm now too far away for anybody to get to me the way that they used to be able to get to me. And I needed to acknowledge that it was going to take some time. And so that's why I got a therapist. And like I said, the resources to that, I promise y'all, just Googling it, stuff pops up so fast, especially when you Google your insurance network for therapy. And if you don't have insurance, a lot of therapists surprisingly are willing to work with people. So if you search free therapy near me, some resources will pop up. And I like that I put in here, you have to constantly go back and keep pulling yourself up. Because, you know, like if you're cleaning off a mirror, it's not just like one wipe and it's clean. It's like a wipe, wipe, wipe. And so there was a back and forth. Like I constantly have to pull myself up. I still do that now. Like it's a battle. I would say the first 2 months of the pandemic were jumping me. And I started to, you know, fall back to the old habits of not talking to my friends because I have a job in a pandemic. I have friends who lost their internships. I have friends who are graduating into this horrible economy. I have this, I have that. And I wasn't realizing that I was taking a step back. I was back in the ignore the mess stage. I had left the cleanup and went back to the ignore. You don't have time to backtrack. The only people who lay on their back are dead because they're in a casket. And I'm not dead. So I need to actively make choices that keep me in the living world. And so I, you know, started talking to more of my friends because I wasn't really feeling the virtual therapy. So I was like, okay, well, let me try something else. It's about trial and error. And you need that support system because, like I said, I started talking to my friends. It was once I started talking, when I broke down, I talked to my guy friends. It was when, you know, I broke down when I got back, and I'm currently at my parents' house, and I had to call, you know, one of my line sisters who's like my spiritual guide to be like, yo, this is rough. And things you can do during this time, you'll see I put, you can't build yourself back up from the lows. And why I say that is you're going to need some people sometime. You're going to need somebody to be like, I haven't talked to Alexis in a while, or, insert your name. I haven't seen her do this in a while, or, she's posting, but usually like she does, like you need your close network who truly knows you, because there's going to be times where you don't want to rely on the resources that you already have to do that. And you need somebody who knows you to be like, yo, this ain't it. This is not what we're going to continue to do. So the mess is cleaned, and that takes time. It's not going to be quick. And I'm sorry about that. I really am. I'm sorry to myself, because it sucks that it's not fast. But you do need to clean the mess. Like when you feel like you're about to hit your breaking point, don't try to push back and ignore it. That's, like I said, that's going backwards. Don't do it to yourself. Boom. This is the last phase. Turns out it's not a last phase. This is a rinse and repeat cycle. A new mess reappears. The mess never leaves. It's not. It's just going to bring new messes. That's all it is. Life is a mess. You see me? I'm in a house that's on fire. That is my day-to-day life. The mess never ends, but there will be a break in messes. And what I mean by that was, before the pandemic, I had about a month period where I really felt like I was getting a groove at work. I had booked all this travel. I was going to LA for my birthday. My friends had jobs, so they were coming to LA with me. Like, they could afford it, and we were worried that we couldn't afford it. What? I'm living. I'm buying up outfits. What, for LA? I was going to shut Rodeo Drive down. A pandemic hits. There are going to be breaks in the messes, but that does not mean that there will not be other messes. So all you could do is build up and prepare yourself for that. And you build the arsenal. You build up that arsenal, which is like your friends, your family, the people around you, even your coworkers. I have some really good supportive coworkers who have noticed, and we don't have to have like a very deep relationship, but they've peeped like, oh, Alexis is a little off, and they give me boundaries, which is something that you need. And even if it's not in the workforce, just in post-grad life in general, that arsenal needs to consist of some solid people. It needs to consist of meditation. It needs to consist of whatever, and that's whatever meditation is to you. Some people like to sit in silence. Some people like to listen to music. Whatever helps you calm down, put that in your arsenal. Like, keep adding it in. And I told you I was technology challenged. And like I said, therapists, coping mechanisms, support system, eliminates toxic behaviors. I was a partier in college because I could go drinking with friends and wake up the next morning and present to my class, my professors, as if I had prepared for the presentation for 6 years. That's not a good habit. That is a toxic habit. The amount that I was drinking, the amount that my friends were drinking. I had friends who had to smoke to eat and sleep. Like, those aren't good habits. So eliminating those toxic habits, and that takes acknowledging those, and that goes in the cleanup stage. You can ignore that, but is that going to help? No, you need to clean. And like it says, it will help you better equipped to clean the next messes. So when the pandemic hit and I was back home and I was struggling with dealing with working East and West Coast hours, an influx of work, I was able to lean on those, arsenal of cleaning supplies, which was, I said, okay, I don't feel comfortable with therapy right now through the virtual setting, but I am comfortable with talking with my friends. I am going to talk to my prayer partners. I am going to do this. And you're going to get to a point where the messes are going to come and you're just going to have something ready to go. Boom, boom, boom. And honestly, you're going to get to a point where you can fix those messes before they start. Like the other day, I was going to get frustrated at work. I logged off. I realized I had put my hours in. I logged off and I called and checked in on a friend. That was a little win for me. And then every single mess, you can't eliminate it. Things you can do during this time, build up your arsenal and give yourself some grace if you don't have something on hand. And what I mean by that, say you didn't schedule that therapy appointment the way you thought you did. You don't have that therapy session on hand. Give yourself some grace. I forget to schedule appointments all the time. I'm a very busy person. That's not me like trying to be cocky or gloating. That's just me being real. I got to give myself some grace. And I can't stop every single mess. I won that battle with being frustrated at work and logging off. But then I also got frustrated the next day in the middle of the day. I can't log off, have a meeting. I can't fix that mess. So I have to just deal with it. I am one person. Everybody's having a mess. The world is a mess, if we're being quite honest. So all I can do is try the bare minimum and try again the next day. And so those are your phases, you know. The mess is starting to appear. You ignore the mess, you clean it up, and boom, a new mess comes. That is the post-grad year in a bubble. And honestly, it ushers you into the rest of your life because the new mess appearing is going to continuously happen until you die. And your first year out, it is rough. It doesn't matter if you have a job. It doesn't matter if you're going to grad school. It doesn't matter if you're backpacking around the world. I do not care. It is so hard because it is such a foreign territory that you have never been in. And nobody can really give you the roadmap for you because everybody's journey is going to be different. And it's hard because you spent so many years being the best, or maybe you weren't the best. Maybe you were middle ground, or maybe you were just the bottom tier. And now you're into an even bigger arena and the rankings are getting lower. And it's hard. It really is hard because no one wants to feel like they failed themselves or they failed their loved ones. And because there's so much mess in that first year, you feel like that's what you're doing, and you're not. For those of you who are struggling to find a job right now, I know it sucks. That's not on you. It truly isn't. You have done everything that you needed to do to get to this point in life, and the world just dealt you a horrible hand. That mess was created by somebody that wasn't you, and you need to give yourself the grace for that. You didn't get into the grad school you wanted. Yeah, you might be going to your backup and you're not really feeling the school and like what they're doing right now. Or maybe you're not going to grad school at all. Maybe you didn't get the GRE score you wanted. What are you going to do in that time? What are you going to do in this time? And if that's nothing, that's fine. If that is nothing, that is fine, because sometimes you just need to do a little bit of nothing to really heal yourself. You know, it's literally a global pandemic of epic proportions outside, not just from the virus, but from unemployment to racial inequality just rising up. There is so much tearing every single person down right now. You do not need to add on to that to yourself. Give yourself so much grace. And so with that, we're going to have some Q&A. Let me see.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexis. This is super helpful. Ashley and I were chatting, and we also took personal notes for ourselves as we're both early in our career post-grad. And yeah, I will help moderate the Q&A for you. And so I'll just start with the very first question we have. It's a bit long, and I encourage everyone as well on the call, please feel free to submit your questions. We do have some time to answer them. So our very first one here is, how do you know who to trust for your support system? Or what do you recommend? I feel like there are times where I am too vulnerable and confide in people too much, and when I need them the most, they aren't there. Was there a way you found your community at your school? And did you stick with those people after college?
Yeah, so I'm queen of being too vulnerable, and obviously I'm talking to, I can't even see y'all right now, and I just told y'all that I have high functioning depression. So I am the queen of being too vulnerable, but what I've learned is that has to happen for you to find your people, and it sucks because people will let you down, and that is a horrible feeling. It sucks to confide in people, and all you can do is notice those qualities in the people who let you down and see them in other people and say, hey, maybe I don't need to trust this person because, you remind me of Jane. And not just like you look like her, you talk like her, like, no, I say this and you passive aggressively say this, or, some people are like friend haters, like they just want to see you down. So like they're down for like listening to you vent, but they're not going to give you any actual feedback. Stay away from those people. They feed off of your negativity because it allows them to feel better. Stay away from those people. They are vultures. They are, I don't know what those animals were like in Harry Potter series that little like flew around. They're those. So yeah, I would recommend noticing, learning from the people who you were vulnerable with and they did not give that back or they were not helpful, noticing what was similar with them and other people you're getting close to, because some of us may keep it like a stack. Some of us had bad taste in friends and relationships, and you gravitate toward people who may not be the best for you. Notice that and then try to pull away from that. Was there a way I found a community at school? Yes, trial and error. Like I said, freshman year I met some people who I thought I was going to be friends with and they were going to be in my wedding. I don't talk to any of those people. I actually stopped talking to them by second semester of my freshman year because we had different values, and I was very vulnerable with them in regards to what was about to be a potential relationship, and they essentially sided with the other person and then would make me feel bad because I did not want to get back with that person. Cut, gotta snip you off. But I did, through that experience, I found some people who I am still close with to this day because they actually were the ones who stopped me from being friends with them. Because I think they saw me like crying and they were like, why do you still want to be friends with them? Like they're making you feel bad about something you shouldn't feel bad about. Like there's a reason that you're not dating her. Like don't go back to her because it would be convenient for y'all's friendship. I do keep in touch with them. They're great. How did I find a way to stay in touch with them after college? We set up, especially the first 6 months, we set up a recurring bi-weekly, and for some people, weekly day and time that I would like reach out and FaceTime them, and they would reach out and FaceTime me because I was 3 hours behind them. So it was like an active participation on both parties to try to like really like continue that relationship. So yeah. Did that answer it?
Great. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm trying to work on my rambling.
No, this is great. Thank you. So our next question we have is great because it's a great segue on what you just talked about, but how did you make friends at work and basically in the real world after college?
So I moved to Seattle, Bellevue, which is outside of Seattle. And so a lot of people are transplants. So I would say a lot of people in the summertime are actively looking for friends. And I also like Microsoft has something called the Aspire program, and they also have something called ACE. And so I feel like those are very good communities for people coming straight out of undergrad or out of a master's program that gives you a built-in community. So that's how I made some friends. Like my friend Alexis, if you're watching this, Alexis, you know how much I love you. I call her Sunshine. She and my friend Akosawa are like my rocks when it comes to work. And how did I meet them? I met them through the program. I also met them interning. They work in my building. So like Leah and I are friends, but Leah works all the way across campus. And so it's hard to like get over there, especially if I'm having like a breakdown. Like I need somebody to come downstairs right now. And like that's Akosawa, and let's say it's like 3 desks away. So I feel like you find your community because you have things in common. We were all new hires. We all were a part of the same little cohort. We all worked in the same building. We're all Black. Also, I just talk to everybody because I really can't see. These glasses are really bad. I need a new prescription. So I wave a lot. because I don't want people to think I'm rude, like if I know somebody and I don't wave. So it turns out I wave to strangers, and then that starts conversations, and then I make new friends and acquaintances. I'm from the South. We talk to any and everybody.
Great. And I know we're at time, but I think we can end on this question here. So the very last question will be, what is the biggest thing that you learned about yourself during your time of discomfort? And how do you develop the ability to distinguish being honest with yourself and overly critical?
What did I learn about myself? I learned that I try to save everybody else before saving myself. And that is something I will do to the detriment of my own health, which is something that I need to stop. And how do I know when I'm being overly critical of myself? If I've already learned the lesson or pinpointed how I could have fixed it and I continue going. So like with the emails, I pinpointed that I could set a a 1 minute delay or something, but I still continue to go down that path of, well, everybody saw that error. I'm sure they're forwarding that around. I'm sure they screenshotted it. I'm sure that's not constructive. That is essentially being critical. So understanding the difference between I found a solution and at this point I am legitimately just beating myself up. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Alexis, for answering the questions and sharing your story and being so vulnerable with our Now Spoke community. We really appreciate it and can't thank you enough for making the time to speak today. And so, yeah, we're going to end on our very last slide that I'll share. So I'm going to pull that up right here. But essentially, we thank you for joining us throughout this time. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Now Spoke. We post some updates weekly. And we really want to encourage your community to share what you learned today. Share parts of what Alexis mentioned today on living through the mess and being able to have these conversations with each other. And so feel free to use our Now Spoke account and use the hashtag Now Spoke. And we will have a post-webinar survey available for you all to take. And we'll love to hear feedback from you on how this webinar went to improve future experiences. So other than that, we're going to end it here. But thank you so much, Alexis. And thank you, everyone that has joined us today. We can't thank you enough. And please stay safe and well. All right. We're going to end the webinar. Thank you so much, everyone.